friends, it's Gwen. If you're anything like me, you'll have a bunch of craft punches sitting in your stash. They can be quite expensive, so I'm always on the lookout for new ways to add them to my projects. Today's challenge is to use 5 punches on a single scrapbook layout, and in fact, I could have easily added in one extra. I'll share more details on that as we go along. It's time to get started. Here's a look at the supplies that I'll be using. I have gone with Coco Vanilla Studios Happy Days collection, and here's a look at the layout. I'm going to start by creating the frame and the background for the page. I am sticking to a simple white cardstock because you will see here in a moment that I'm going to be using all of the colors. Now, of course, I have gone in with a plan. I have 2 squares of just scrap paper, and they are 3.75 inches wide by 5 inches long. I've gone with those measurements because I'm using a square punch here that is 1 1/4 inches square. I'm going to punch out a bunch of squares of the different prints in this paper stack. I'm then going to layer and stack them a little bit like a grid. So I've just run with several of the different prints of pattern paper. I have made sure to choose a mix of floral and geometric shapes, and then I want to sort of place them somewhat randomly. I say somewhat randomly because they're not actually random at all. I just want them to appear to be random. I'm paying a lot of attention to the balance of the colors here, and I am making sure that no 2 prints are side by side. Each block is going to end up being 3 squares tall and 4 squares long. If you're recreating this page and you don't have a 1 1/4 inch square punch, just multiply the size of your punch by 3 and then by 4 to get the size of the rectangle that you'll need. While I work on that, I did want to mention that this layout actually has a bit of a side quest. I very recently asked in the community tab what you would like to see me be challenged with, and these are the top 2 things that were suggested: punches and bright colors. So I thought, you know what, while I'm working with my punches challenge, I will use the brightest collection that I have in my stash, which is this one. So you can see here, I did plan out all of the positions of the squares first, and then I'm going back with my ATG and I'm going to adhere them down. I'm not too worried about them staying stuck forever because I am going to add stitching. I wanted this to have a bit of a feel like a patchwork quilt. So the little squares are squares of fabric, and I'm going to stack them up and then I'll add my stitching. What does that have to do with the photo? Nothing. I just thought it might be fun. I thought it would be a really good way to get lots of different prints from the collection onto my layout without it looking too messy. With all the pieces placed, I did notice that the edges weren't perfectly square, so I am just going to trim them up ever so slightly with my guillotine trimmer, and we're talking a very, very small amount here, but you know what? They say the devil is in the detail. With that all done, it is time to back my photo, and I'm going to use this really pretty navy blue print. That is the same print that I have used for the frame of my layout, and I use that trick all the time. I use the same pattern paper for the frame as I'm going to use to mount my photo. It's a quick and easy way to get a cohesive look, and you don't have to think too hard about it. The paper scrap that I had there was a little bit short to back the 6x4 photo in full, but it worked out perfectly because I did have a little bit of white space that I wanted to trim. So I've gone ahead and done that, and this is how everything's going to end up looking. Here's punch number 2, and it is a tab punch. I use this tab punch all of the time for so many different things. This time around, it is just going to be a little tab feature that will be on the top edge of my photo. And I'm already starting to think about where I'm going to be placing my embellishment clusters and my title. I also wanted to mention that if you're looking for any of the supplies that I'm using in today's video, there are links in the description box below. It's time we talked about flow, and this layout is flowing left to right, but I do want to spread that out a little bit. I'm going to do this by adding 2 floral clusters. The first will be smaller and it will be in the top right hand corner, and then the main cluster will be in the bottom left hand corner of the photo. I like to use odd numbers in my clusters, so I am going to go with 3 flowers in each. The bottom cluster there will end up being larger because I will add some extra elements to it. This collection has a packet just of die cut florals and leaves, so lots and lots to choose from. So I'm going to focus on flowers that are the right size that I'm looking for and the right colour. For me, creating embellishment clusters is as much about excluding elements as it is about choosing elements. These particular clusters are sitting on quite a busy background. There's a lot of prints going on there, so I need to choose colours that are going to stand out from that background. Each cluster will also end up with 1 large flower and then a couple of smaller flowers to balance out the sizes. On to punch number 3, and I'm going with this very simple butterfly shape. Punches like this one are great for creating little embellishments for your layout, and I am going to end up adding a couple of butterflies here. It's now time to think about the title for the layout, and this collection did have a bunch of chipboard alphabets. I'm going to use those to spell out the word beautiful you, and because I'm working on the left-hand side here, I am going to run my word backwards. So I'm going to start with the L and then U and then move towards the front of the word. By very lucky coincidence, the word beautiful only just fits. I really wanted it to stay within the bounds of those rectangles. I didn't want it to extend past that point, so I did have to put the letters quite close together, but they do fit. Professional scrapbooker here probably should have maybe planned that out. Lucky for me, it all worked out okay. The other word that I'm adding is you, so it's going to be beautiful you. For those of you who don't know, this is my daughter, and I got her on a good day. She doesn't always enjoy having her photograph taken, but today she was feeling it. With that all looking good, I did want to extend out the bottom cluster there. The floral cluster at the bottom, for me, wasn't feeling weighty enough. It needed more elements, but I also wanted to see what other little banners and things I could add. I still have 2 more punches that I need to add, but funny story, as soon as I had finished this layout, I went in to show her it. I told her about the challenge, and the first thing she said was, "Do you know what, Mum? You could have gotten an extra punch in there. Why didn't you use a corner punch to round the edges of one of your paper layers?" And it was such a sweet moment because yes, clearly she was right. How could I not have added in a corner punch? But I also realized that clearly she is paying attention to some of this scrapbooking stuff. Here is punch number 4, and it is an edge punch. I love this edge punch. It makes it look like a ripped notepad paper. Very versatile, and it's a great way to add texture to your layout without bulk. I am going to get a little more texture from the other elements by using 3D foam. So I'm just going to pop up a couple of the banner pieces here. Super happy with how all that's looking. And here is punch number 5. This one has been kicking around in my stash for the longest time, and it's the tiniest little floral. I may not be able to find an exact link for this one, but I will try and find something similar for you. All of the details will be in the description box below. Remember too that this really is about using what you have. So if you need to switch things out and make some changes, you can totally do that. It is coming together really well. I do feel like I need just a couple more elements to bulk up the embellishment clusters. I found a couple of floral sprigs that I'm going to add in, and that's just going to fill out some of that white space there, add in a little more detail. I do really like detailed layered clusters. Could you do me a favor? If you are enjoying this video and you're finding the tips and tricks really useful, I would love it if you would subscribe. This not only helps me to know which videos you love, but it also helps the YouTube algorithm share with you more videos that you will like. Things are getting serious because I'm gluing stuff down. While I do that, I want to share with you lots of close-up images. Here you can see the details of the little patchwork quilt that I've made, the stitching and those cute little paper squares. You can see the chipboard title and of course the floral embellishments. Thanks so much for being here, my creative friends. If you like the way that I scrapbook or the way that I chat about the way that I scrapbook, I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up. Not sure what to watch next? I recommend this video right here. I share an even simpler way to use your craft punches on your next project. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, bye!